Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Core Set 2020 draft here on the channel. Before I dive in, I do want to remind you that if you enjoy the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If the video gets to 50 thumbs up, I will post another video tomorrow. So if you want to support the channel and get access to more content at the same time, be sure to hit that thumbs up. If you would like to further support the channel and get notifications when I post new content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton, and I truly appreciate each and everyone who subscribes. If you do subscribe, you get access to my community tab where I will post polls very frequently where I ask what type of content you want to see and other enhancement things for the channel. So if you want to have an input on the channel, that's a great way to do it. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. Finally, if you have any questions at all about the draft or the gameplay, be sure to leave those in the comment section down below. I love interacting with all you folks. This is a great community we have here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. And if you would like to further support the channel, be sure to check out the Patreon, get access to some exclusive rewards. Recently, I posted an article to my patrons and things like that. So check it out at patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. But let's dive into the draft. This is still very early on in the format, so I am going to be going very in-depth here. I know that there are some people that prefer me to be a little bit more brief with my overviews, but early on in the format, I still think it's quite valuable to talk about all the cards and make sure people know what's going on in the format, especially because this Friday marks the first time that you can be drafting with the cards. Okie doke. So up first we have Tail's End. This card is a sideboard card, not really a main deckable card, and you'll only side it in if your opponent has a legendary spell to potentially counter, and that legendary spell has to be pretty dang good. Tail's End on its own, it doesn't counter enough things in limited. You don't really want to be countering activated abilities or triggered abilities because generally those aren't powerful enough to be worth countering. I guess you could sometimes like snag a meteor golem that would like kill your creature, but you'd just rather be playing a spell that counters this spell you want to be casting rather than counter the triggered ability or activated ability. So Tail's End is pretty much a sideboard card and definitely not one you take early, and it doesn't even come out of the sideboard very often because there's not a ton of legendary creatures, so pretty much unplayable, and don't take this card in drafts. It's not very good. It does look good for Commander though, so that's something, I guess. Unchained Berserker, this card is quite powerful. It's really hard to properly state how powerful protection is. If you match up against a white deck and you have Unchained Berserker, it's very, very annoying for them to deal with it. They might not have that many removal spells in their second color. Maybe they're relying on pacifism effects to deal with your creature, and Unchained Berserker is just like hits pretty hard. 3 power is just a lot, and even if you're not against a white deck, it's probably going to trade for something reasonable. What I've found from my experience in this format is that there's a lot of 2/2s running around and a lot of 3/3s running around, and so Unchained Berserker on offense is going to trade with most of the things your opponent has. There's not like a ton of 1/4s or 3/4s to block it, so it is going to be able to attack a lot of the time, and protection is a very powerful ability. So Unchained Berserker is quite a powerful card and definitely something I'm considering in this pack. Barkhide Troll is another card I'm considering in this pack. I think I like it a tad bit better than the Unchained Berserker, even just because a 2-mana 3/3 is incredibly powerful at all stages of the game. A lot of the 4-drops in this format are 3/3s, and so Barkhide Troll potentially trading with a 4-drop is quite good, and the ability to remove a counter to give hexproof is actually nice as well because it does give it a lot of protection from potential like burn spells your opponent might point at it or things like that. Barkhide Troll is quite powerful and definitely something I'm considering here. Between that and Unchained Berserker so far in this pack, other cards that I'm probably considering are pacifism, but I'll get to that in a second. Loaming Shaman, not really super great. I mean, 3-mana 3/2 with minor upside sometimes is a card you'll play, but you're never going to be super excited playing this. If you do have some sweet shenanigans going on where you're like self-milling yourself with a bunch of Gorging Vultures and you want to get stuff back, it could be okay, but Loaming Shaman is just going to be a solid card that you'll play. It does increase your threat density if you draw it later on in the game. You can shuffle in your best cards, but overall not a card you're going to like go out of your way to play. It'll just be fine. Moment of Heroism, it's kind of inefficient, 2 mana to get only +2/+2, but the lifelink could be quite relevant if you end up in a racing situation. I think I'd rather bring this in out of the board for matchups that are going to be super aggressive or where the life gain seems super relevant, though it is a okay main deckable card. Not something I'm taking early for sure. Pacifism is the best white common. It's just 2 mana, kills anything pretty much. There are a decent number of ways for your opponent to leverage that creature they have. There's some sacrifice cards in the set, like Bone Splinters at common, which is black, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. So pacifism, them having a creature in play is relevant. There's also Unsummon, which can bounce the creature back to their hand. There's Yarok's Wave Crasher at uncommon, which is a 4-mana 4/4 that can return a creature you control to your hand. That has to return a creature you control to its hand when it enters the battlefield, and if they do that on your pacifism, the creature you pacifism, it ends up very badly. But overall, pacifism is still quite powerful, and a lot of the time it's just 2 mana kill a creature, but sometimes only temporarily. Bone to Ash, this card's solid, but you don't really want too many copies of it. 4 mana, it is quite clunky. You want to have other ways to spend your mana at instant speed. If you can do something like hold this up alongside a dang, I'm so sorry, I forgot the card name, but it's the 2 red deal 4 Challenger's Outrage, I think it's called. You can hold up another 4 mana instant and like kill their creature if they don't present a threat or something like that. You don't want to just hold up 4 mana, have your opponent pass and do nothing. But that being said, you can build your deck in a way that this card is much better, and even if you do hold it up, your opponent oftentimes casts a creature into it anyway in the late game. So Bone to Ash is a solid card, but definitely not in contention for first pick in the pack. Currently, I'm looking at Unchained Berserker, Barkhide Troll, and Pacifism. Octoprophet, it's a solid common. The Scry 2 is actually quite relevant. A lot of the time, Scry 2 is about the threshold for scrying, where it's equivalent to a card in a lot of situations, because in the late game, if you scry away 2 lands, it's like you drew 2 cards, and early on you can find like your 5th land if you really need to hit it. Octoprophet is just a solid blue common, and you'll play like a couple copies and be pretty happy with them, but not taking it this early for sure. Sanitarium Skeleton, you kind of need a reason to play this. Maybe you have some sacrifice outlets, maybe you have some self-mill synergies, or you just need to have a card that you can discard and get back and stuff like that. But Sanitarium Skeleton can get the job done. It's more of a synergy piece, though. You don't just put it into any deck. Destructive Digger, the first copy is actually pretty solid. It gets much worse in multiples, but a 3-mana 3/2 that has some upside in the late game is a pretty solid card, and you'll definitely play the first copy of this in all of your red decks. Similarly, Reduce to Ashes is the type of removal spell that I don't run too many copies of. You'll run 1 copy of it and be pretty fine with that, but it gets pretty clunky in multiples. The removal in this set is quite good, and red in particular has 2 other removal spells at common that you'd rather run than Reduce to Ashes, so you probably won't be forced to run too many copies of Reduce to Ashes, and you'll just run Chandra's Outrage and Shock instead. Natural End, just a straight up sideboard card. You can bring it in, but you're not going to main deck it, I don't think, at least in this point in the format. Netcaster Spider is a common that I like quite a bit. There are a lot of flyers running around, and Netcaster Spider actually shuts down a lot of them. A lot of them are 2 power, so Netcaster Spider can be pretty potent against them. A lot of them are even like 2/3s or things like that. So I think Netcaster Spider is a pretty potent green common, just a solid one. Yeah. Vial of Dragonfire, not one that I really like. 4 mana to deal 2 damage, even if it is on the installment plan, is just not good enough. And Thornwood Falls, a gain land. The gain lands in the set do help with splashing and things like that, but overall, not a card you're taking early. So here, I think it's between Berserker, Barkhide Troll, and Pacifism. I think Berserker is the highest variance card, and in my decks, I'd rather pick a lower variance card when possible. So I don't think I'm going to take the Unchained Berserker over something like a Barkhide Troll. I do think Barkhide Troll is a little bit better than Pacifism. Pacifism especially because there's a lot of cards that kind of abuse the Pacifism, and Barkhide Troll is just always going to be good. Pretty much just a good draw at any stage in the game. 3/3s have really impressed me, so we're just going to take the Barkhide Troll here over the Pacifism. I think my next pick out of this pack would probably be the Unchained Berserker, just because I really want to get a sense for how good that is, and I think it's probably close with Pacifism, and then I would take Pacifism, and then third pick, I think I would take, it would be between Octoprophet and Netcaster Spider. Reduced to Ash probably after those, maybe. Yeah, but I think I'm just going to take the Barkhide Troll here. Okie doke, and now we have another great pack. There's a pretty good rare here. Glinthorn Buccaneer is a just nice card. 3 mana, 2/4 haste is like just a solid body, like good stats. When you discard a card, it deals 1 damage, which might not seem that relevant, but then it gives you the option to discard a card and draw a card. So it helps you filter through your deck, find the cards that you want to be finding, and overall just a very good card, and a rare that's probably better than most of the commons, pretty much all the commons and uncommons, but I mean, like, I would probably take Murder over, but like, it's just a very solid card. Eternal Isolation, also very good card, but it's more situational. The reason why it's a good card is because when you do hit a creature, and most decks will have a target for it, when you do hit a creature, it's very efficient. So they'll play their 5-drop, and then you'll kill their 5-drop for 2 mana, play your 3-drop, and you just end up way ahead. There is the downside of it not just being able to kill creatures, and also your opponent might not have a target for it, or they might not draw a target for it. So you aggressively side this card out, but I would main deck it in this format, and I think it is a very good card that you would probably take relatively early in the draft. Warden of Evil's Isle has been quite impressive to me. There's just a lot of flyers. I recently had a deck that had 11 flyers in it, and Warden of Evil's Isle just greatly helped reducing costs. And 3 mana 2/2 is just a solid, for flyers, just a solid card in this set. Corpse Knight, not going to take this here because it is a gold card, white and black. And even though it is a strong card, it's not going to be strong enough to justify taking it this early when I already have a green card. And also because I would have to end up in black and white specifically. And I do think this card is good, though. And in your black-white decks, it's going to be a great card. Just giving your creatures not drain 1, but make your opponent lose life when they enter is just a lot of inevitability, especially if you can get some tokens. Glaring Aegis, not a card I'm a big fan of. Just giving a creature +1/+1/+3 is like not really worth like a card, and the tap ability is like not super relevant. So if you're a hyper aggressive deck, you might run this card, but generally the removal is too good in this set to play Glaring Aegis. You can get 2 for 1 really easily, and I'm not a huge fan. Inspiring Captain, this is one of those 4 mana 3/3s I was mentioning earlier. This one has like some solid like upside if you play it, but like not like a great card overall. There's just a lot of the time it won't even enable attack. Like if you have a couple of 2/2s and your opponent has a 4/4, that it doesn't even really enable any attacks. I think it's okay, but in the right, you kind of have to have a good deck for it, and you can probably get these later. You don't need to prioritize them at all. Next up, Frilled Sea Serpent. This is really not a priority. You'll play this pretty much if you have a good control deck that just needs a big creature, and other than that, you won't play it. Frostlings is quite good. The elemental part of this is actually quite nice as well. Oh my gosh, I never looked at that artwork before. Those are just like, he's just freezing someone under the ice. That's gruesome. Oh my gosh. Yikes, terrifying. But yeah, Frostlings, great tempo play, and a solid card. It's actually close. I think I would start by taking Warden over Frostlings, but that might not even be correct. I'm not sure. Frostlings is quite powerful. But I think I'm going to take the Glinthorn Buccaneer over both of those. And yeah, Blade Brand, it has been okay for me. It's kind of hard because there's a lot of great instant speed removal, and so I've been like getting blown out when I go for Blade Brands, or at least I did in the one deck I was playing with it. Still, the format is very new, so it's hard to say for sure. But Blade Brand is the type of card that's a little bit better in an aggressive deck because you can use it when your opponent's tapped out and really ensure that value. Trying to use this on defense is really a risky proposition. I'm just not a huge fan of Blade Brand. It's like a card you can play, but not one that you'll go after aggressively. Sanitarium Skeleton I already talked about. Sorcerer of the Fang, I don't like this card at all in this format. A lot of the 2/2s have abilities that make them like you don't really want your Sorcerer of the Fang blocking them anyway. Like it'll be Audacious Thief, so that's the 2/2 that when it attacks draws a card and loses you a life. If you have a Sorcerer of the Fang, it doesn't like deal with Audacious Thief because they'll just attack anyway. There's a lot of 3/3s running around. A lot of the 2/2s have flying, and then there's just Blade Brand and Fathom Fleet Cutthroat to further punish the Sorcerer of the Fang. I'm really not a fan, and I don't think this card is really a great card to start in your decks. I do kind of like how the tree in the background is like mirroring his pose, just kind of in reverse. So like the right limb is like up and the left limb is like out. So it's kind of like they're going in tandem there. I kind of like that art twist. Voiced Claw. If you need a big creature, you can play this. It is an elemental, but I'm just generally not a fan. 6 mana, 7/7, just big dumb creature. There's enough removal to kill it. It just gets wrecked by a lot of things. Heart Piercer Bow. There are some 1 toughness creatures, but this is more of a sideboard card than a main deck card in my opinion. But you can pick one of these up late and sideboard it in sometimes. And then there's the Tranquil Cove. So I think here the Glinthorn Buccaneer is worth playing. Worth taking early. It is a monocolored card, so I could still just go into a red X deck or a green X deck. It leaves me very open. The other options are Warden of Evil's Isle or Frostlings. I just think that the Glinthorn's a little bit better than the Warden. Even though this is flying and has a lot of upside with flyers, I think Glinthorn is just a little bit better than it and gives you a lot of upside. You can even like save up cards in the late game and deal like discard 3 at once and ping them 3 times, and just a card that I'm a fan of. Okie doke. It also just leaves me relatively open. I've got a green card and a red card. There's no gold cards. There's no real commitments. If I take Warden, I kind of want to take a Flyers deck type deal. Okay, Blight Beetle. Protection from green. The protection is just very good, especially out of the sideboard when you know that your opponent is going to be playing green. I don't think this card is worth main decking because a 2 mana 1/1 is just horrific if your opponent's not playing green, and the +1/+1 counters is not relevant and limited. But out of the sideboard, this card's going to be solid. You just don't need. You don't want to main deck it, but it's solid. Bloodthirsty Airless I think is great. I've got. If I take this, I'll have 3 different double-colored cards, but I think it might even be worth it. Bloodthirsty Airless, there's a lot of incidental life gain. Like, there'll be like creatures that just gain you life when they enter the battlefield, or a sorcerer that gains you a little bit of life. And Bloodthirsty Airless, if it grows, 3 mana for a 3/4 flyer is excellent. 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer is already pretty excellent, and Bloodthirsty Airless is quite good. Also, another thing to keep in mind is I did see a couple Sanitarium Skeletons, and if I have a Glinthorn Buccaneer, I can discard a Sanitarium Skeleton. Maybe that could be a way to get some value, potentially, and then I could have a Black-Red Sacrifice deck, maybe, that uses Sanitarium Skeleton, and I could probably get those Sanitarium Skeletons later. So that's just something to keep in mind, like a long-term draft thinking strategy. Like, if I take this black card, I could end up in a Black-Red Sacrifice deck, and I also have a card that cares about discard, and then a Sanitarium Skeleton that I saw in Pack 1 and Pack 2 could maybe come back, and then, yeah, that's just some long-term thinking that you should consider when you are drafting, if you have a memory that can, like, handle that type of thing. If you don't have the best memory, just work on training it. Like, try to remember the most relevant cards from the first couple packs, like what you think, especially the cards that you think might wheel. That's something you get a sense for as you go through the format, but just something to keep in mind. Diamond Knight, I'm not a huge fan of it because if you draw it in the late game, it's a 3 mana 1/1. You kind of have to draw this early and have it stick around for a while, and I think that's too much of an ask for Diamond Knight to be great. Aerial Assault, you'll play this, but it's not like insane or anything. 3 mana is pretty clunky for this type of removal spell, and even though you can gain a couple life sometimes, it's generally going to be just an okay card, and you don't want too many copies, because you do generally have to get hit before you can use your Aerial Assault. Steadfast Sentry, it's a combination of Spinal Centipede and Wario Copy from back in Guilds of Ravnica. I was actually a pretty big fan of Spinal Centipede, which was just 3 mana for a 3/2 that didn't have Vigilance and had the +1/+1 counter ability, and I think Steadfast Sentry is pretty nice. The fact that it has Vigilance means your opponent is going to have to trade with it eventually. As I have said many times, there's a lot of 3/3s, a lot of 2/2s, and the +1/+1 counter ability means that even if this trades with a 2/2, you did get some value anyway, and on defense it can trade with those 3/3s. So Steadfast Sentry is a pretty solid card. Not nowhere near Bloodthirsty Airless, but still solid. Already talked about Frilled Sea Serpent. Winged Words I really like. This is like Divination with upside. It's just like excellent card and very good payoff for being in the Flyers deck as well, because casting it for 2 mana is just a lot of value you can gain. It just feels kind of like wrong what you're doing to your opponents. I think Winged Words is quite good, but I do think that you don't want to like just play random divinations necessarily, and I don't think it's better than the Aerialist by any stretch of the means. Unholy Indenture, I will say, I don't think it's very good. But, and I know that it can target your opponent's creatures. I feel like a lot of people miss that. I know I did the first time I read it. But the reason I don't think it's good is because your removal spells that kill any creature, like your murder, people are always like, oh, I unholy indentured my opponent's creature and then I murdered it and I got their 4-drop or whatever. Your murder is always going to be a good card. You don't want to play a bad card to make your murder even better. It's just the classic case of if you draw your unholy indenture without your murder, it's really bad. Because you're just putting this on your creature, exposing yourself to a 2-for-1. If they have a bounce spell, if they have a pacifism, if they have a sleep paralysis, which is a blue removal spell that taps the creature and makes it so it doesn't untap, you really get wrecked playing an unholy indenture. But if and then also if you draw your murder before you've drawn your unholy indenture, you're also in this spot where you don't want to really use your murder because you want to wait until you draw unholy indenture, and then you're just in a whole pickle. So I don't think unholy indenture is very good. Daggersail Aeronaut, however, is a pretty solid card. 4 mana 3/2, essentially flying, because a lot of the time on defense flying doesn't matter all that much anyway. A lot of the time, I mean, I guess if your opponent can have some flyers, but a lot of the time you're attacking with your flyers most of the time. So 4 mana for a 3/2 flyer is a pretty good deal, especially for aggressive decks. I don't think it's better than the Bloodthirsty Aerialist, and it's early enough in the draft that I don't want to take this. But this is definitely the type of card that I could see someone like saying, okay, I want to make sure I can I want to stay in one color maybe and take the Daggersail Aeronaut. I just think that Bloodthirsty Aerialist is good enough that it's worth taking over it. And also, I could still just be a green-black deck. I could be a black-white deck. I could still go any direction. Reduced Ashes, already talked about it. You can generally get one of these. Scorch Spitter, I don't think is playable. There is one uncommon that I think can make this card potentially playable, and that is the 3 mana 1/3 that gets +3/+0 if your opponent takes non-combat damage in the turn, because then you can maybe get them for 4, but even then I still don't think Scorch Spitter is very good. The problem is that as soon as your opponent plays a 2-drop, this guy just can't attack, because now it's just a 1/1, and they're probably going to have played a 2/2, and then your Scorch Spitter is a blank, and it's sad. And then we have Thicket Crasher, 4 mana for 4/3, give your elemental trample. That can be relevant, especially with the Flamekin Brawler, which is the other 4 mana elemental in red. That is a 2/4, it attacks and gets +1/+0 for every elemental you control, so it attacks as a 3/4, and if you have Thicket Crasher and play it, it attacks as a 4/4. I've had it attack for as many as 8 damage before, or 7 damage or something big, so Thicket Crasher is a nice little combo with that, but definitely not taking that here. We're just going to take the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And then after that, we would probably take either the Daggersail Aeronaut or the Winged Words. I really do like Winged Words. It doesn't combine particularly well with these cards, though, so I probably would take the Daggersail Aeronaut. But we'll get the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. 3 double-colored cards in a row. We're really grooving on our mana here, but double-colored cards are not the end of the world. Okay, Loyal Pegasus is a card that is solid. It works especially well in Flyers decks, so pairing it with blue is nice, because the fact that it can't attack alone means that you want to have another evasive creature or a creature that can attack alongside it, so Flyers are really good candidates for that. Blocking alone is not as big of a deal, because by the mid-game, a lot of the time you're going to have your opponent's going to attack with multiple creatures, and you can just block a couple different ways. And Loyal Pegasus, I think, is a very solid card. I don't think it pairs particularly well with any of the colors that I have with it. It is fine if you're playing a red-white aggressive deck that's always attacking. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a very solid card. I would rather take a card that's in one of these colors. Moving into a 4th color is not necessarily ideal, but I could consider Loyal Pegasus for sure. Seasons of Growth is a very interesting card. I haven't gotten a chance to play with it. I have played against it, though, and I can say it's just kind of odd. The problem is it just puts you down a card unless you can start drawing cards off of its ability. There are a number of ways to do that. Rabid Bite is one of the most notable ways. That's probably the best one. There's also Feral Invocation. There's Combat Tricks. There's a lot of different ways that you can get the cards back out of Season of Growth, but it is pretty slow. And you don't necessarily just want to jam this on turn 2 and then scry and then get some scry. It's just kind of a clunky card. It could be powerful, but it's also just a horrific top deck, and I just generally don't like taking this type of card, and yeah, I don't think it's a card you should be prioritizing in your own drafts. Inspired Charge is kind of part of the A and B deck. So part A is you get a bunch of tokens or 2 bodies for 1 card, and then part B is you play Inspired Charge. And Inspired Charge is really a key card in that type of deck. You want to have a way to get mass pump on your board, and Inspired Charge is probably the best way to do that. You just alpha strike, which means you attack with all your creatures, and then you get like plus 10 power in 1 attack. So Inspired Charge can be good in that type of deck. I don't really have any cards that go in that type of deck, though, and you really want the tokens before you take the Inspired Charge, because you can get the Inspired Charge later because nobody else wants it. Fairy Miscreant, you kind of need like 4 or 5 copies of this card before it becomes worth it. I don't like taking it, and I don't think you should be doing it either. It's a cute card, but not a card that ends up being very good overall. It just, the fact that even if you draw 1 card off of your second one, it's still not very good because you just played 2 1/1 for 1 that like drew you half a card each, and it's just very unreliable, and it's just too small to be impactful, and then you top deck it late in the game, and your other one already died, and it just, yeah, not a great card. Barony Vampire, 3 mana, 3/2, not going to be taking that. Fathom Fleet Cutthroat, I think this card is really going to wreck people if they don't play around it correctly, but a lot of the time you can just play around their Fathom Fleet Cutthroat, just not block, start racing instead. Fathom Fleet Cutthroat is a bit inefficient on defense because if you're just playing a 4 mana 3/3 to block, it's not the greatest. So, and once again, this is one of those 4 mana 3/3s I was discussing earlier, like Octoprophet, Inspiring Captain, Fathom Fleet Cutthroat, just that type of thing. Just 4 mana 3/3s, and just that's why 3/3 and 2/2s are stat lines to keep in mind when you're evaluating cards. But it's a solid card. I'll definitely play it in my black decks, especially if I'm more aggressively leaning. Next up, we have Feral Abomination. This card is just like filler. You'll sometimes play it if you need a big creature. It's like the Frilled Sea Serpent of black cards, if that makes sense. Soul Salvage, I do like this card quite a bit, especially the first copy is pretty high value. There is a common Gorging Vulture in this set, which mills you for 4 cards, which really helps you to facilitate Soul Salvage, because it's kind of hard sometimes to trade off 2 creatures in the early game, especially because in some colors the removal is enchantment based, so that means the creature won't even be dying. It'll just be sitting in play. But Soul Salvage with self-mill effects is definitely pretty nice. So that's a card to consider out of this pack. Rip Scale Predator, it's kind of like the red Feral Abomination. It's a little bit better because a 6 mana 6/5 Menace is better than a 6 mana 5/5 Death Touch, I think. But it's still just a big clunker that you'll play in your red deck sometimes if you need a finisher. But generally, a lot of the time, your red decks will be more aggressively tilted, and you won't want 6 drops anyway. Tectonic Rift, pretty much a stone unplayable. It's just, there's too many flyers running around for the not blockability, and it's just inefficient anyway, and destroying lands is just garbage and limited, so just don't play Tectonic Rift. And then there's another Gain Land, which we aren't going to be taking, and there's a Gift of Paradise. So this is actually kind of an interesting decision between Gift of Paradise and Soul Salvage. Gift of Paradise is just a pretty solid card. If you want to be playing like a more ramp-oriented strategy, I could consider like going into a green with a Paradise, but I think I don't really have any reason to go for a big like multicolored splash deck that maybe ramps a bit. So I don't think I really want this. I think the main choices are between Soul Salvage, Loyal Pegasus potentially, because I could just pair Loyal Pegasus, like Loyal Pegasus into Barkhide Troll is kind of great, Loyal Pegasus, and then on turn 3, Glinthorn Buccaneer is pretty great. Bloodthirsty Airless, just another flyer to pair with that. And then there's also a Soul Salvage, which could be kind of nice, especially if I end up in a graveyard theme. I think I would take the Soul Salvage over the Fathom Fleet Cutthroat, though it's kind of tricky. I kind of just want to take the Loyal Pegasus, keep myself very open here. I don't think the Soul Salvage is going to be something that, like, I'm just not sure on my colors yet, and I just want to keep myself open. So I'm going to take the Loyal Pegasus. It might seem a little bit odd, but, you know, I've got time to figure out my draft, and if white ends up being open, I don't want to be like, wow, if I'd taken the Loyal Pegasus, I could have been moved into white. Now I just kind of can go any direction. I just don't really mind taking these early picks to find my lane, because once I find my lane, I'm going to be set, I think. And then this pack just has, like, complete, like, insanity. There's a really solid uncommon in Brineborn Cutthroat. 2 mana, it's, like, not insane or anything, but the 2/1 flash, it can sometimes ambush things. It can ambush 3/2s if your opponent is attacking with those. And then a lot of the time it can get a counter because there's a decent number of instants running around. So just a solid card. You'll always play this in your blue decks. Colossus Hammer, unplayable. Equip 8 is just too much. End of story. Moment of Heroism we already talked about. We're not going to be taking that here. Raise the Alarm is quite good. 2 bodies for 1 card is quite nice. It being an instant means you can sometimes ambush your opponent's 2/1s if they're attacking. It also just like triggers some enters the battlefield things for like if you have a card that cares about creatures entering, and overall works well with things like Inspiring Charge, and I like this card quite a bit. It also helps get you good blocks with your Loyal Pegasus and things like that. This is definitely a card I'm considering out of this pack, and probably actually is going to be the pick. Even though Brian Burrow and Cutthroat is a solid card, Raise the Alarm is very premium common. I already just took a white card. I kind of don't want to move into a 5th color in 5 picks, and Raise the Alarm could be just a good enough reason to move into white. Metropolis Sprite, it's okay. Sometimes you'll play it in your Flyers decks, but generally it's not like an insane card. It does work kind of nicely with Loyal Pegasus as a good little friend, but not a huge fan of the Metropolis Sprite. Milk Piranhas is a card that really rewards you for knowing your game plan. I kind of stole that line directly from Limited Resources, but, you know, it's a good line. Milk Piranhas, what that line means essentially is if you are like going to be a dedicated control deck, like you have the late game on lock, you're pretty sure you're going to win any late game, you can play the Milk Piranhas. If you're going to be playing a Flyers deck, so you just want to stall the ground while your Flyers win, Milk Piranhas is going to be good. If you're just playing a random mid-range deck that doesn't have a clear game plan, Milk Piranhas isn't going to be great, because sometimes you're going to want to be on the aggressive side with your Milk Piranhas attacking, with your 2-drops attacking, and sometimes you're going to want to be more defensive. So sorry, I just got a text. That was kind of funny, so yeah, I'll address that later. Milk Piranhas, you just kind of not want to know your plan, and I don't think it fits into my plan here. I don't have any blue cards, so that's one downside for it. Sleep Paralysis is a solid blue removal spell. It is very clunky, though, and I think Raise the Alarm is just going to be better a lot of the time anyway. Get those 2 bodies and help your go wide synergies. So we'd probably I don't think Sleep Paralysis is worth taking over the Raise the Alarm. I think it is probably better than the Brineborn Cutthroat to take here, though. Just get that removal spell, because blue doesn't have access to removal other than Sleep Paralysis, so it's good to take it early. Epicure of Blood, if you have some life gain, you might run this, but overall just kind of a clunker. Goblin Bird Grabber, this flavor is insane. Just you can pay red to have it grab a bird, and then it gains flying. So, yeah, it's kind of awesome. It can ride the Loyal Pegasus. But Goblin Bird Grabber, just an okay card. If you're playing an aggressive deck and you have some Flyers, you'll run this. But otherwise, 2 mana, 2/1 is just too bad if you don't have any ways to give it flying. And then a Stone Golem, 5 mana, 4/4. You're not going to run this card. And, yeah, we're just going to take the Raise the Alarm here. And after that, we would probably take Sleep Paralysis and then Goblin Bird Grabber. So, or maybe Brownborn Cutthroat and then Goblin Bird Grabber. But I think the Bird Grabber is probably somewhere relatively high, because we could pair it with our white card or our black cards. And I don't know. We'll just take the Raise the Alarm. Geez, that is a late Frostlinks, but there's also 2 good red cards, and yeah. Pulse of Marasa, though, is a solid card. We're not going to, I don't think we're looking to play green here. It looks like we're seeing kind of some red and white signals. We're seeing a Goblin Smuggler, which I really do like, and we're seeing a Goblin Bird Grabber, which is going to be like a solid card sometimes in your Flyers decks, and also just, I think Smuggler is just a good card. It works really well with this Glinthorn Buccaneer. If we did end up going more of a black-red direction, we could still play that, and Bloodthirsty Yellow is a nice combo. I think Goblin Smuggler is going to be the pick out of the pack, but I will talk about the other cards, because in your drafts, you might not have this exact pick, and then you're like, but what about the other cards? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Pulse of Marasa is just a very solid card, especially if you're a more mid-rangey deck. This card just kind of single-handedly crushes an aggressive deck, because 6 life is a ton of life. You'll oftentimes return like a solid creature to your hand, and Pulse of Marasa, the 6 life does really help justify the fact that you are kind of taking a turn off from affecting the board, so it's a good card. Angelic Gift oftentimes is going to be too slow, also gets blown out by removal and bounce in response. Angelic Gift is kind of a card that is a clunker, and I'm not a huge fan of it. But you can sometimes run it, especially if you need Flyers. Moment of Heroes, and we already talked about, we're not taking that here over a Goblin Smuggler. Frostlinks, this would be another solid blue card, but we're not going to be moving into blue at this point. I think the ship has sailed, kind of. We're kind of just going to, we could technically, I guess, be a white-blue deck, but I just think we have enough cards that are good in the other colors that it's just too much, like, we're just giving up potential good cards to get other good cards, and I think we're going to just pass on the Frostlinks. Already talked about that card, We're not going to be moving into black here over these great red cards. I think Goblin Smuggler is actually quite good. It just gives you a nice threat, and it works well with just the idea that you want to be attacking and getting in for damage, I guess. I mean, it just kind of speaks for itself. Giving creatures unblockable is quite good. Works really well with our Glinthorn Buccaneer. It works really well with the Flamekin Elemental, because it can give it unblockable, and then the creature elemental potentially grows. Just a good card. And then 3 mana, 3/3, just a solid body in this format, and I do like it. But I think Goblin Smuggler is a little bit better. I won't take the Bird Grabber over the Smuggler, but let's just take a Smuggler and see what happens. Okay, and now a Portal of Sanctuary. I don't think this card's very good. The fact that it only activates during your turn means you can't really do any shenanigans that actually make this card good, and you're not going to have enough enters the battlefield effects to make this card playable, in my opinion. Colossus Hammer, we already talked about, it's bad. Diamond Knight, also bad. Moorland Inquisitor, probably the pick out of this pack, just another white card for a potential red-white aggressive deck, and works with our Goblin Smuggler, and sometimes the activate ability comes up, so we'll probably be taking that. Negate, mostly a sideboard card, but you'll sometimes side it in. I love the flavor text. As one, nature lifts its voice to tell you this. No. Funny stuff. Undead Servant. If you can get a couple copies of these and have some self-mill synergies, Undead Servant can actually do some work. But I don't generally like to go for this type of effect in Limited because a lot of the time you're just drafting one of these and then never getting there. Maniacal Rage I really don't like in this set. You can sometimes use it as a removal spell. Keep in mind you can enchant your opponent's creature and their creature can't block. So if you're an aggressive enough deck, you can just kind of leverage this as a removal spell. But it does help your opponent race if you put it on their creature. And putting it on your creature is just a recipe for getting like murdered in response or unsummoned or really any removal spell and you just get wrecked. There's a lot of good removal, as I said. So don't really want the Maniacal Rage. And we don't really want to take a 6-drop when we could be taking a 2-drop for our deck. So we're not going to take the Ripscale Raptor at this point. This artwork is fantastic. Let's take the Moorland Inquisitor. And now we get a God's Willing. This is a great late pickup. This card is incredible for a variety of reasons. First of all, if you attack with your 2/2, they block with their 2/2, you can God's Willing win the combat. Next, you can use it to sneak through some extra damage. So if your opponent only has green blockers and they're at 3, and you give your creature protection from green, they can't block it, and you win the combat. Third, if your opponent goes for a removal spell on your key creature, hashtag Goblin Smuggler or something like that, you can give it protection, stop the removal spell, and all of this you get a scry one, which is really good. And you're trading up on mana because this is a 1-drop. And then finally, this is a really cool use that I didn't know about until I had various people tell me this. And by various people, I mean podcasts I listen to. But if they have a pacifism on your creature or a decision or a sleep paralysis and you give your creature protection, that enchantment falls off. So you can just kill a pacifism even after it's been on your creature for like 5 turns, which is awesome. So God's Willing is definitely the pick out of this pack. We don't need the Piranha or the Barony Vampire. Duress is only a sideboard card, and even then your opponent really has to have some key non-creature spells for you to take, and I don't think it's very good. We're not going to be taking that because we're probably going to be playing red-white. Feral Invocation is a solid card, but not insane or anything. It's just a solid. You want to use this mid-combat, win the combat, and have a big creature left behind, so it's okay. And then Healer of the Glade is not a card you're going to be playing. It's sometimes sideboarded material if your opponent has a lot of 2/1s and they're aggressive, but generally not a card you're playing. God's Willing is a fantastic pickup. Oh my gosh. Unchained Berserker came back. That really shouldn't happen. This card is excellent, and really fits into this aggressive strategy we're building. Works also well with the Goblin Smuggler because you can give it unblockable and then attack them for 3, which is quite nice. We aren't going to be prioritizing the Reduce to Ashes here. We're just going to take the... We probably are going to see the second one that we're passing around anyway. Let's just take the Unchained Berserker. And now there's an Inspiring Captain. As I said before, the Sandstorm did come back, but Inspiring Captain actually works pretty well in this style of deck. You're just curving out. You go like 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and then you play your Inspiring Captain, give all your guys a lot of stats. Glaring Aegis, still not a card I'm super big fan of. And we're not going to take this for the sideboard when we could just take a card that's perfectly main deckable. And now we get a Dagger Sail Aeronaut. 3/2 flyers, great in aggressive decks, as I was saying, so we'll take that. We can pick up this Ripscale Predator. Sometimes you really want this type of effect, and could be good to have, especially out of the sideboard potentially. Now we'll just take a Stone Golem, you never know. Unholy Indenture going about where it should. And Maniacal Rage. If we are aggressive enough, we can play that and just use it as a removal spell. So that is something to keep in mind. Wow, we opened like one of the craziest. This card's insane. It just takes control of a creature. It is 7 mana, but keep in mind, you're taking your opponent's creature, so you're getting an extra blocker out of the deal and getting rid of one of their attackers. So it does do a lot to stabilize you. We're definitely not taking it because we aren't blue, obviously, but this card's great. You can even unsummon your own Agent of Treachery or soul salvage it back after it dies and then take another creature. It's just insane. Rapacious Dragon is almost definitely going to be the pick here. Even though we don't really use the extra mana all that well, it's still useful. We can still use it to maybe hold up a God's Willing. We can still use it to cast a second spell that turn, or use the Glinthorn Buccaneer ability, or it's just a lot of different things you can do. And maybe we do open a card we want to splash that's just so good. Like we could open the Angel that is blue, that is black, white, and red, and maybe we'd want to splash that. So Rapacious Dragon is going to be the pick out of this pack. Tonebound Lich, a pretty solid card, just decent value on all sides, but you're not really going to want to splash. This is just a good payoff for being blue-black. Diamond Knight already said I don't really like it. Dawning Angel, just quite nice card. It helps you race. It's much better in a more mid-rangey deck than a deck that's more committed to being aggressive. We're going to move this to the sideboard for now. If we are trying to commit to being as aggressive as we can, we don't really care about the gaining 4 life, so we'd rather just play something like a Dagger Sail Aeronaut because it's 1 mana cheaper. But Dawning Angel is definitely a solid card. Boreal Elemental, similarly, I really like this card. 5 mana, 3/4 flyers, just bigger than a lot of the other flyers. A lot of the flyers are not going to be able to deal with 4 toughness, and making it hard to target means that even if your opponent does have removal, they're often going to trade down on mana. or trade up, whatever. They're not going to have a favorable mana exchange. Winged Words, I already said, is great, but we're not blue, obviously. Zephyr Charge, I think, is not really a playable card in any deck. I think it could potentially be sideboard material if you are playing like a mid-range mirror between you and your opponent and neither of you has any flyers, but I still don't think you should play it, so just don't play Zephyr Charge. Agonizing Siphon, pretty good. The 3 life is actually relevant, triggers some things like this Bloodthirsty Aerialist, but yeah, just a solid black common. I talked about the skeleton, so alright if you can have some synergies. Destructive Digger I wouldn't mind getting, but it might wheel, and just getting a flyer is really good, and the mana could be relevant as well. Also works really well with Destructive Digger because you can sacrifice the treasures to draw a card, which is great. He's holding a piece of gold. I never really noticed that. Also, he's got a bunch of dynamite on him, so that's hilarious. Tectonic Rift not playable. Centaur Courser is a fine card. Ferocious Pup, I do want to say, is one that is going to be a little bit better than it looks, I think. A lot of the time, the O1 is going to be relevant, I think, in this format. It'll work with your Inspired Charge. It'll work with your like Bone Splinters just as removal, and overall just a little bit better than it looks, I think. We're just going to take the Rapacious Dragon, though. And now, wow, this pack is really bad for us. Yeah, I think that we're going to end up taking a Reduced to Ashes now. I mean, we don't mind running one copy of it. We don't really have any removal, so we're just going to be taking the Reduced to Ashes here. But I will talk about the other cards. Vengeful Warchief is just not a great card, just very mediocre. A lot of the time, it's just going to be a 5-mana 4/4 that just sits there for a couple turns, and then your opponent kills it or something like that. But it's all right. Sometimes it can dissuade them from attacking you. Mold Divine Reclamation, I think you kind of have to build around this. You want to make sure you have enough defensive tools so that you're not just dead casting a 5-mana card on turn 5 that doesn't affect the board. But if you can facilitate that, which I think you'll be able to do a lot of the time, Mold Divine Reclamation can be a late game engine that wins you the game. Scuttlemutt is quite good. It might actually be the pick here, is how good it is, over Reduced to Ashes, just because Reduced to Ashes is so expensive. The problem is the 3-mana 2/2 doesn't really tangle in combat all that well, and because, as I said, there's a lot of 2/2s running around and a lot of 3/3s running around, and this is neither. And also, we're not really looking to splash anything. Though, with this and a Rapacious Dragon, splashing could be a little bit easier, though you generally don't want to splash in your aggressive decks because you want to just have consistent mana early. But Scuttlemutt's kind of cool. It also lets you sometimes main deck the sideboard hoser cards. Like, there will be a card that destroys a green or white permanent, and if you play a Scuttlemutt, you can change a creature to a green card and then use your card that kills a green card on it. So that's kind of nice value, but we're not going to be taking that here. Just a good card overall, though. Disenchant, just straight up sideboard card. Maybe it'll probably wheel, so we can get that later. Anticipate kind of spins your wheels a bit, but it has some nice flexibility, so you can play these if you get them. But you generally are just going to rather prefer to play creatures or combat tricks or removal spells rather than Anticipate. Cloud Conceer is the best blue common by a mile. It's unbelievably good. 3-mana 2/1 flyer draw a card is just fantastic, and it's also an elemental. And also there's flying synergies like Winged Words, so Cloud Conceer is just ace in the hole, unbelievably great. Frailties, everyone we already talked about. Sleep Paralysis already talked about. Reduced to Ashes we're just going to be taking here. So we'll take it over a Scuttlemutt. Oak doke. Ancestral Blade. This is my kind of card. I'm very happy to see the Ancestral Blade. This card, excellent. Very, very powerful card. So basically what this is a 2-mana 2/2 that can then start spreading around the love. After it dies, it can just start giving all your other creatures plus, like a bunch of your other creatures +1/+1. Very powerful card. Definitely taking it here. Rule of Law is unplayable. Just, you're never getting value out of this in limited. It's either guys, good sideboard card in for blue decks, but we're not blue. Moment of Heroism, we're not taking it over an Ancestral Blade, but it's an okay combat trick if you need those. Soul Mender is unplayable in my opinion. Just 1-mana 1/1s, just so bad to draw in the mid game. Even if you draw this on turn 1, it just gets blanked really easily, and gaining 1 life a turn is just not that good. So Soul Mender just gets a straight up F from me. Bone to Ash, as I said already. Yeah, the cards I've already talked about I'm just not going to cover again because if they're not in my colors, to just save some time. Mind Drop is a card you'll main deck sometimes. A lot of the time you're bringing it out of the sideboard for slower matchups. But, yeah, not a insane card or anything. The Bird Grabber is just much worse than the Ancestral Blade. Maybe the Bird Grabber will even wheel. It works nicely with this Dagger Sail Aeronaut. He's like tagging along, even though it's not a bird. Doesn't really make sense flavor-wise. And then Leaf Kindred is a very solid green common. The ramp is actually nice. As I said, there's a lot of 2/2s running around, so the 0/3 actually blocks a lot of things. And sometimes you'll get double mana, which will be relevant. And then you'll gain land, but we're just taking the Blade. Whoo, baby. Nice. The Sky Knight Vanguard. So we get the gold uncommon for our color combination. We can potentially even use the token with our Inspiring Captain or something like that. And I just like this overall. Nice little card here. I'm definitely taking it over the Eternal Isolation. Hardcover is not playable. Just opens you up to too many downsides, and looting is just not worth the effect because you put yourself down a card to put this on your creature and expose yourself to a lot of 2-for-1, so not really great. We're just going to be taking the Sky Knight Vanguard here over a Dagger Sail Aeronaut. It just chips in, gets you some tokens sometimes, and overall just a solid card. Works really well with Loyal Pegasus because it attacks alongside it quite well. Anticipate, we already talked about. Audacious Thief is a black common that I think is quite good. There's a lot of ways where you can just get value out of this. You play this on turn 3, your opponent plays a creature, you kill their creature, attack. Sometimes they don't have another blocker, and you just get a lot of value. On the play, it's very good. And it also just makes your opponent have to hold back extra blockers, because you really can't let your opponent get too many hits in with this before they just kind of run away with the game. Very solid black common. And I've talked about all these other cards. Marauder's Axe is a nice little payoff for going wide, but we don't have all that many ways to make tokens other than this like one Raise the Alarm. And yeah, we're just going to take the Sky Knight Vanguard. Okie doke. So in this pack, Woodland Champion is actually quite good. There's a lot of ways to make tokens in this set, or a decent number at least, and works really well with like Raise the Alarm. It even works with the Rapacious Dragon because the treasure tokens are tokens, so that's just kind of cool. And Woodland Champion is just a great card. Battalion Foot Soldier, don't really want to move on this in pack 2. It's also more of a mid-rangey card. You don't really want this in your aggressive decks because 3-mana 2/2 is just not a very aggressive body. But in more mid-rangey decks, more like decks that kind of build up and go wide and stuff, Battalion Foot Soldier can be solid if you can get like 3 copies. 3 is like the minimum number when you'll be like fine playing it. It's good at 3 because that'll give you a decent odds of drawing 1 copy but not the other 2. And you'll sometimes play like 4 copies if you get them. But Battalion Foot Soldier is all right. I was a little bit off on my initial estimation. I thought this card was going to be like really, really bad. But I think it's actually solid if you can get 3. Other cards I haven't talked about. Chandra's Embercat. It's a good card in if you need a 2/2 or if you can ramp out some elementals. We don't have the elemental part, but just getting 2 drops is good. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, we have 5 2 drops, so we don't really need this. I think I'm rather just going to take an Infuriate here. We kind of need more combat tricks. We only have the God's Willing, and combat tricks are just kind of the bread and butter in your aggressive decks. You just want ways to interact in combat while you're attacking. One of my favorite things with an aggressive deck is, so you have a card like Raise the Alarm. It makes 2 1/1s. You just want to be able to turn all of your creatures sideways every turn and then have your opponent block 1, use a combat trick to win that little fight. And if you can do that with enough combat tricks like Infuriate, you're just going to be in great shape. We don't really need a 2-mana 2/2. We already have 5 2-drops. We'll get more over the course of this draft. Infuriate is just going to fill a role in our deck that we need to fill. We've talked about these other cards, and then Growth Cycle is a very mediocre combat trick. 2 mana for +3/+3 is all right. And then, like, you're not really going to try to get multiple Growth Cycles because you don't want too many combat tricks in your deck. But we'll take Infuriate here over the Embercat, I mean, and over the Foot Soldier. And now we can pick up a Uncaged Fury. Uncaged Fury is a great removal spell. Not great combat trick, I mean, especially in combination with Infuriate. Also, like, big flyers, like Rapacious Dragon, it gives it, like, an extra 5 damage for only 3 mana, which is quite nice. And so Uncaged Fury, just a really good combat trick. As I was saying, you just want to be able to jam with all your creatures. It also is a cool little combo with the Goblin Smuggler because you can give the creature unblockable and then use Infuriate, Uncaged Fury sometimes, so just quite a nice combination. We wouldn't mind getting a Destructive Digger. It works really well with the Rapacious Dragon, as we already said. Prismite's a card I'm never super happy running. I've already talked about these other cards, but yeah, we're just going to take the Uncaged Fury over the Destructive Digger. And yeah, we don't really just need a bad 2-drop. I haven't even found the fixing on this to be that relevant, though you will sometimes play it as just a 2-drop for your decks that need a splash. Okay, and now we're probably just going to... We've talked about all these cards except for Wolfkin Bond. Wolfkin Bond is all right. Like, it does open you up to a lot of blowouts, so I don't love playing it, but it can get you decent value. If your opponent ends up tapping out, you can play your Wolfkin Bond to be pretty effective. I think the Dagger Sail Aeronaut is just going to be a really good pick here, though. Get me more flying. I think Inspired Charge is okay in some decks, but I don't really have the best tools for it. I think I would potentially play one of these, but I don't really want to prioritize it, and rather just get an independent standalone threat that can pressure my opponent, because 3/2 flyer is pretty big, so we'll get the Dagger Sail Aeronaut. Oh man, now I kind of wish I had that Inspired Charge. 4 mana for 3 1/1s. I'm not sure if I want to run this in the deck. 4 mana for 3 1/1s is just generally a good deal. I might just rather have a Goblin Smuggler, though. Just to give my stuff unblockable and be really annoying. Scampering Scorcher is pretty solid, but I already have 1, 2, potentially 3, 4 drops. Scampering Scorcher is pretty solid. It can get in for some damage. It also goes really well with combat tricks, as I was saying. So it's between that and Goblin Smuggler. I think Goblin Smuggler gets a little bit worse in multiples because you don't always have enough creatures. It does work really well with the Sky Knight Vanguard, though. The Goblin Smuggler does, because you can give the token that it's attacking unblockable so it doesn't die. close pick. But if I do get the Scampering Scorcher, then future Inspiring charges get a lot better. And I could just cut the Inspiring Captain. I think we're just going to take this Goblin Smuggler, though. I really like this effect, and I think it's going to be quite good. We don't really need a Marauder's Axe in this deck. I think Goblin Smuggler is the pick here. And the Destructive Digger came back. Perfect. Disenchant for the sideboard. Now we'll get another Maniacal Rage for the sideboard. We are potentially going to be able to main deck those. Another Dagger Sail Aeronaut. Maybe this card is undervalued by Arena. Something to keep in mind. We'll take that because it's in our colors. And okie doke. Whoa, Mu Yan Ling. This is not a card we can play, but it's awesome. This card is fantastic and limited. You play it on turn 3, plus it. Their creature won't be able to pressure it. Then you minus, make a 4/4, and then you just keep plussing and then making 4/4s, and it's just, yeah, a great card. Devout Decree is a fantastic sideboard card. If this pack is a little bit weaker, we could just take this and then side it in against any black or red opponents and just have a great card that just kills any other creatures, and it's just excellent. Scholar of Ages, another card that I think is quite potent. It just kind of wins you the game all by itself in a lot of decks. Like, you only need like one Scholar of Stars and one Soul Salvage, and then you just win any late game, because if you pick up like any removal spell, Scholar of Ages can get back Soul Salvage, and then the Soul Salvage can get back Scholar of Ages when it dies. It's just fantastic. So Scholar of Ages is definitely a type of builder on card that can win you the game with your control deck, and something to keep in mind for sure, especially because there's a lot of loops that involve it. Another Uncaged Fury could be something to consider, though I don't. The second copy is a little bit worse than the first copy, because after you play your first copy, your opponent's going to start playing around it for the future games, and once they start playing around it, it gets a little bit worse. Though picking up multiple copies does make other cards like Infuriate much better, so also something to keep in mind. There's a Daybreak Chaplain. There's also which is not a very good card. 2 mana 1/3 lifelink is just not big enough, and lifelink on a 1-power creature is just not insane or anything. Griffin Protector would normally be pretty good, but we have 3 Dagger Sail Aeronauts, which is just going to be 3 power every time instead of just some of the time, and you don't really need all that many 4-drops. So I think we'd rather just take another Uncaged Fury here over the Griffin Protector, even though Griffin Protector is pretty solid, especially with Skyknight Maybe we just want, we'll just probably just take the Griffin Protector. It works really well with Skyknight Vanguard, with Raise the Alarm. You don't need too many Uncaged Fury effects. Yeah, we'll probably just take the Griffin Protector. Other commons we haven't talked about. Yoke Docs, you don't really want to play this card. 0/4s are just generally not good enough cards to be worth playing. Boneclad Necromancer, pretty solid card. 5 mana for a 3/3 and a 2/2 would just be a pretty solid card, and you'll usually be able to trigger this. And then Gorging Vulture, I think, is excellent. Milling yourself for 4 is so good, and the life gain adds up as well, so great card. So I think here the pick is between Griffin, Devout Decree mainly. We don't really need a second Uncaged Fury at this point. And I think Griffin's going to get the edge here. Just a great evasive threat. Works well with some of the cards we already have. But this card is so potent if we play against a black or red opponent. We already have 3 Dagger Sail Aeronauts. We could see more, because the bots don't seem to take them ever. Let's just take the Devout Decree. And now we can pick up another God's Willing. Excellent card. Inspired Charge, not really what I'm looking for right now anyway. And then Steadfast Sentry would be solid, but I think God's Willing is just too good to pass up on. Any cards I haven't talked about in this pack? Wolf Rider Saddle is a card I do like. All the equipments that come with a creature I think are quite nice. Just 4 mana for a 3/3 that can't be blocked by more than one creature, and then can just slowly send the equipment around after that creature trades off. Just seems like good value to me. I really like this card. Corpse Knight, we're not going to splash. And then Fortress Grab, you'll play it in your Flyers decks as a ground blocker. But yeah, we're going to take God's Willing over the Sentry and over Aerial Assault. God's Willing is just a great card. Holy jeez, this pack. So I think I'm going to take the Apostle of Purifying Light, because if I do end up matching against a black deck, this card is just so good. I think that exiling from Graveyard is actually kind of relevant, like, because Soul Salvage is kind of a key part of what black is doing a lot of the time, or Soul Salvage or the Graveyard in some way, so actually kind of good. And Protection for black is just insane on your 2/1, so just a great 2-drop. We already have 1 Rapacious Dragon, we already have another 5-drop to go alongside it, and even though I do like Rapacious Dragon, we're not really looking to splash in this deck, and we kind of just want to have as many premium 2-drops as we can, and this 2-drop can kind of just win the game on its own sometimes, though we will side it out. Dagger Sail Aeronaut might come back, because it doesn't seem like the bots care about this, but that would be kind of nice. Reckless Airstrike is just a fine sideboard card. I don't think I mentioned it last time I saw it, but just a good sideboard card. And then maybe we could get a Sentry back. We don't really need the reduced action, but we'll just take the solid 2-drop. It's just a very good 2-drop. Jeez. This is insane. Ancestral Blade is excellent. Chandra is excellent. Yeah, Chandra's just insane. So basically, it's just 2 shocks. You can deal 2 damage to something, and then deal 2 damage to something again, and then just start plussing. We don't really have any elementals, so the plus doesn't do anything in our deck, but it just lets you set up for more shocks. So if your opponent isn't pressuring your Chandra, then you're just getting a lot of value. The Ancestral Blade is so good, though. I think Chandra's like the best uncommon in the set. I am not thinking of every uncommon, though, so I'm just throwing that off the top of my head. But I remember thinking that to myself before. Like, this card is just so good. If you remember Jaya from War of the Spark, which was 5 mana, couldn't gain loyalty in any way, and could just deal 2 damage to any target twice, that card was pretty good. And I think Chandra's going to be pretty good as well in my deck. Ancestral Blade is really good, though. We're just going to take that. And we already have a lot of 4-drops. We're just going to... Oh, man. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2-drops right now. This would be a 7th excellent 2-drop. Chandra would be... Yeah, we can just slot the Chandra into the 4-drop slot. It's just too good to pass up. Okie doke. No new cards here except for this Dragon Mage. I don't think Dragon Mage is very good. 7 mana for a 5/5 is just a little bit underrated, and making everyone discard their hand and draw 7 again is just kind of mediocre, so I'm not really a huge fan of this. Instead, we'll just take a Reckless Airstrike, get one of those for our sideboard. Another God's Willing. The 3rd copy does go down a little bit in value for me. I'm tempted by the Cryptic Caves, but we do have some heavy mana requirements, like a lot of double... We have a double colored card and a double red card that we really want to be able to cast. And there is a God's Willing, so we'll probably just take the God's Willing. Maybe we won't play 3, but we'll definitely consider siding this one in. I don't even know. We might even play 3. Now we could take either a Goblin Smuggler number 3 or just a Steadfast Sentry. I think at this point we'd just rather have a Steadfast Sentry. We already have 2 Smugglers, so the 3rd one goes down a little bit in value. We don't need any 4-drops. I think Salvager of Ruin is just kind of mediocre. Not a card I'm a huge fan of. And another Raise the Alarm. Absolutely fantastic. Can't believe this card's still in the pack. We'll take it over a Reduce to Ashes. You don't really want too many Reduce to Ashes. It's just kind of inefficient. Veil of Summer. You can side this in against blue or black, but it's just not insane. But Raise the Alarm's pretty good. And the Uncaged Fury came back. I don't even know if we'll play it. We might just rather have a Reckless Airstrike. Let's just take the Uncaged Fury. I can see that being pretty good. And now Inspired Charge actually seems great in this deck, because now that we have 2 Raise the Alarms and a lot of flyers and stuff, could be good. We'll get another Dagger Sail Aeronaut. I think over the Reckless Airstrike number 2. We don't need too many of those. And now we get another 2-drop. We'll get that, I guess. We're not going to play it. We'll just take this to build our collection a little bit. Ooh, Reckless Airstrike came back. Nice, nice. And Unholy Indenture last. Okay. Whew, nice. Okie doke. So now comes the build process. Of course, first things first, we must change our card sleeve to that. Okay. So this has 46 cards here for us. We're definitely going to cut the Inspiring Captain. I think it's just worse than Dagger Sail Aeronaut in our deck. And now we just have to choose which creature we want. I think we only... So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2-drops. So I think we only need 7. So we'll cut a Moorland Inquisitor. We're also going to cut a God's Willing, because we don't really need 3 copies of this effect in our deck. Let's zoom these in so you can see them a little bit better. So we still need to cut 3 cards. I could see cutting a Dagger Sail Aeronaut. We don't need too many of those. They are kind of expensive. I could see cutting an Uncaged Fury, a Dagger Sail Aeronaut. I think 17 lands is correct here, especially because we have this Glinthorn Buccaneer to get rid of some extra lands if we do draw them, and this can be kind of a mana sink, and this is some Scry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 2-drops is the lowest we want to go. We want to keep in this combination. Those 2 combo tricks are good. Let's just get rid of 1 more God's Willing, I think. We want to keep as many creatures as we can. Yeah, this seems quite good to me. Let's look at our color requirements. 14, 10, sure. We'll keep 9, 8 as our split. This is going to be our deck, and hopefully it works out. I'm excited to play it. I haven't gotten to play red. I mean, I'm like 3 drafts in so far, or something like that, and a bunch of sealeds, but red-white seems like a cool combination. We have some protection going on. And we have that Moorland Inquisitor that we can side in for when our opponent is not playing a deck that our protection cards matter against. Oh yes, winning the die roll. So good. We're actually going to keep this hand. If we draw a mountain, it can curve out pretty well. Even if we don't, we have a couple 2-drops to play. And Ancestral Blade is going to be good. We'll definitely lead off with the Ancestral Blade. And also Destructive Digger makes 17 lands more appealing as well. That's fantastic. Let's attack and play Destructive Digger. This equipment is going to be really good here. I have a good feeling about it. So we'll try to get this Dagger Sailor not into play. Just curve out on our opponent. Could just be very effective. We'll change our cat's color to green or blue. Ooh, currently black, but blue is good. Okay. Opponent attacks, sure. Okie doke, let's attack. Sure thing, that's fine with us. We will then play the Unchained Berserker and equip. It has protection from white. That was brilliant. Whoopsie-daisies. Not great. On the brilliant plays, forgetting that this is a colored equipment was not the best. But it's probably still fine to have played that way. Oh, nice. Oh, the combos are already flowing. Blade Brand. Sad day. We do need to hit our 4th land at some point. It will happen, I believe. I believe in the heart of the cards. Oh my gosh, they're going for the Fairy Miscreants. I swear. That's so sad. Oh my gosh, of course they got there. Why wouldn't they get there on their Fairy Miscreant first try? Okay, so here we just kind of want to play the Dagger Sailor or not. Let's just attack. Sure. I can't imagine they have another Fairy Miscreant. How many do they have, and how many do they draw in their opening hand? You know? I say this fully expecting them to play 2 more Fairy Miscreants, because that'd be hilarious. Like, honestly, I would just clap my hands and be like, kudos to you, bro. Kudos to you. Warden of Evo's Isle. Perfect target for our Chandra. Okie doke. Let's just get this Chandra out.
Be afraid, wizard. Toasted.
Just a shock factory, as they say. Really going to town with these Fairy Miscreants. We will bring in our Reckless, whatever the heck's, to kill these Wardens and maybe a Fairy Miscreant. Sure. So we are just going to kill this guy.
Hold on. I'm gonna try something.
Our Sky Knight Vanguard. Do we want to equip here? I don't think so. I think we'd rather just attack and then give this thing protection from blue. So this plays badly against Disfigure, but I figure my opponent probably doesn't have Disfigure. We're going to put that in the bottom, of course. And we got the W. Nice. For some reason, I thought the 2-drop had haste. I thought this guy had haste. I don't know why. So this is for black or red. My opponent is playing black, so we will side that in for certain. Probably going to side in our reckless airstrikes because we know our opponent has a lot of flyers. Our opponent is playing black, so this card's relevant. Our opponent is not playing white, so Unchained Berserker gets a lot worse, especially because we know they have all the Fairy Miscreants. So we're going to take this out for a Moorland Inquisitor, which we're actually matches up really well against a lot of things we did see. So we do have to cut 3 cards here. I'm not feeling the Loyal Pegasus, really. I'm not really feeling Uncaged Fury either because it just matches up really badly against Murders and Unsummons. Let's cut that. God's Willing seems pretty solid. Let's cut the Infuriate. We'll cut 1 Reckless Airstrike. We don't need both of those. I don't know how those changes were, but they're probably solid enough. We brought in a couple good sideboard cards. Cut a card that was probably pretty bad in the matchup. And we will, on the draw. Jeez, this hand does not play well if we draw another land. We only have like 1 Destructive Digger as a mana sink. We can do better. We'll keep this though. And we will put the Dagger Sail Aeronaut on the bottom. Yep. You monster opponent. Gotta face it, my opponent is a beast. No blocks. This screams Bladebrand to me. Warden of Evo's Isle. No attacks. No blocks. Just don't want to let their Bladebrand get too much value here. So we will Chandra.
So many new worlds.
Kill this
So many
thing.
opportunities to get lost. Sure hope you can't handle the heat.
No attacks. Now we will block. They'll use their Bladebrand, which ties up their mana a little bit. Yes.
I'm getting all fired up.
We will plus the Chandra. End turn. We'll make them spend the mana to get it back.
Keep it up and you'll get hurt.
So this guy's probably going to mean that things aren't going to go well for us. I think we're just going to play this. Finish off the Fairy Miscreant. And then
Pyromaster and Firebrand.
make this thing unblockable. Hit him to 14. This thing can rumble back. We have enough tools to race him, I think. Even if this thing does get pretty big. Like, we're going to hit him. If he attacks us, we'll hit him back for 7, which is a 2-turn clock. Sure thing, buddy. Sure. Sure. Oh, that's excellent. Target this creature. And then we'll play a land. Move this back to this guy so he can trade with the Undead Servant. Then end turn. We'll block, jump. Oh, that's unfortunate. Wow, those were 2 good cards. Man, I think we might have won if we'd drawn the guy that gives our other guy unblockable. Potentially. That seems solid enough to me. And then whiffed on that one. Well, we made a noble effort. Yeah, that's game. This thing is just... We're going to have to just chump it too much. Okay. Game 3. It's game time. I'd actually think we might just not bring in this Reckless Charge. Airstrike. All of his flyers are too low impact. We'd rather have like a Infuriate. The Unchained Berserker still is really bad. Dagger Sailor Nut's got to stay in, I think. It's just too good. Did we even have that in our base deck? We'll cut the Inspired Charge because we have been trading off a lot. Yeah, this looks good to me. Let's get him. Get him dead. Excellent hand. Oh my gosh. This is the dream, folks. 2-drop, 3-drop, Devout Decree, and my opponent's mulliganing. And this is a pretty good 3-drop because it pairs really well with Merlin, because Moorland, because Moorland has first strike, so getting an extra counter on him, I mean potentially first strike, so getting an extra counter on him can be quite good. And no turn 1 Fairy Miscreant. Poor you, opponent. How does it feel to be so unlucky? Well, that's sad. Not like end of the world sad. So he gains 2, but then he takes 3. We're just going to go for the most mana efficient play, and then we'll trade these off probably. Sure thing, buddy. We'll target Moreland Inquisitor. Excellent. Now we finally can trade off with that thing at least. We're going to just pass turn here because if he plays the 5-mana guy, we want to be able to deal with it. If that makes sense. We should have done some fancy equip shenanigans, like equipped to here and then equip back. That was a mistake. Missed out on a point of damage. Okay. Definitely trading. Get rid of that guy. It's really annoying. We'll keep that on top. Perfect. Then we'll do that, and we will flip it there. I don't know if Sky Knight Legionnaire is worth keeping. If Vanguard, I mean, it seems decent to me. Frostlings, okay. All my creatures attack really well. Dum ba dum ba dum. I think this is probably in the bag for us. Boom! Let's go. I am feeling good. And I'm feeling good. I might have played game 2 slightly too aggro, but I think with our deck, it's good to play aggressive. Let's just check. Do we want to change anything? I think Uncaged Fury is probably worth. I think we just want this last 3/2 flyer for Inspired Charge. Even with the Raise the Alarms. The Raise the Alarms are just good enough on their own. And I do think the Chandra is worth playing over the, worth having over the Ancestral Blade that we could have had. It was a really close pick, though. It might have been correct to take the Ancestral Blade. I just had no experience with the Ancestral Blade. This is an excellent hand. We do need a red source, but we have like 3 or 4 draws to find one. We have a lot of white cards to draw in the meantime. Hello, opponent. Obviously, a mountain to get the Sky Knight Vanguard into play would have been quite good. Let's just keep it on the 2/2 for now. Give me a mountain right now. Oh, please. Oh. Hello, mountain. Nice to see you. That was such a good rip. Right off the top of the old deck, Ruski. My opponent just could concede on the spot.
I think I'm a decent enough pyromancer.
And if they play a bigger creature, we can ramp out this reduced to ashes, which is pretty sweet.
Hold on. I'm gonna try something new.
Oh, that's not cool, bro.
So much to do, so much to see. I'm fired up. Call my fist Master and Firebrand.
2 damage to any target, eh? So I kind of want to just -1 this Chandra to get 2 red mana. That'll give me up to 6 mana. So I can play this and this.
Quit it! I'm getting the hang of this magic thing.
So hopefully that was the correct decision. I don't know if it was. But now this thing can attack the Chandra. Oh, brutality. That is actually really annoying.
Let's burn brighter.
Brutal. At least the 1/1s are really good here. No blocks.
I can't stay, but trust that I haven't given up on you.
My opponent looks like they have a shock. But luckily this thing dodges shock. Nice.
Powers always lead to destruction.
So we both have a bunch of cards that really suck against all the 1/1s my opponent has. Boom! And they concede. 2 color screwed. So, against a red deck, I am going to not want Unchained Berserker because, yeah, the 1 toughness seems like a real liability against that 1 card he has. We're definitely going to want the Devout Decree. And the Moreland Inquisitor will come in. We'll cut an Uncaged Fury. And this seems good to me. Sorry if I don't talk through my sideboarding enough. Essentially, I just wanted to cut the 1 toughness guy because of that 1 card that my opponent has, and because I might end up on the defensive when I'm on the draw. I know 2 mana 1/1 for blocking purposes is bad. Actually, I really should have cut the Apostle. That was really bad. My bad, folks. That would have been a better cut. I don't know my opponent's second color. And on the draw, we will. Jeez, we're gonna keep this. We just need 1 land. Mulliganing is just not very good in limited. If that land happens to be a plains, we get rewarded to the max. It is green that is my opponent's second color. Oh goody. This can deal with a Chandra. Plains me. Or just land me in debt general. I don't mind. Any land is fine. We'll just take whatever land you can give me, deck. Because I trust in you. And I know that you only want what's best for me. Which is a land. Because you're a good deck. Okay. I deserve that. Gonna get rid of the Rapacious Dragon. Maximum greed, keeping a 2-land hand on the draw. I mean, you are like 80% to hit your 3rd land on the draw. That's just a stat. I don't mind though. My opponent has no pressure at all. And I have a lot of good cards in hand. Lobkin Brawler is going to eat a Devout Decree. Oh. Well, it was a good try. It was a noble attempt. Probably should have got rid of the smuggler. Yep. It was a noble effort, I must say. It was truly a challenging game to navigate as well. Which card to discard to hand size is always a tricky struggle. One that one truly never understands the magnitude of. And we've lost this game. That was truly a magnificent battle, and one that I felt like a true contributor to. Apostle of Purifying Light is now out of the deck. Instead, we shall run... Dang, what do we even run? So... we're back on the play. That's always good. Huh. We could just run a God's Willing. That seems fine. Let's do it. Heck yeah. Never doubted it for a second. Perfect hand. Perfect match. GG. We have the Skynet Vanguard Goblin Smuggler combo, which is just actually a real legitimately great combo, because you can give the token that is attacking unblockable. Time to hold some full control. How do I hold full control? Gameplay. Auto order, no. No. Show phases. Do not need those. Disable emotes. Oops. Let's see. What is it? Hold full control is shift and control. Perfect. Perfect. I don't know if it'll give me the priority stop, and I don't want to chance it. I wish we could get this Glinthorn Buccaneer into play. That's all I want. Just give me a mountain. Just a little one's enough. That's a sad moment. Hey, that was good. Pro green. Don't want that. Nice, and we'll be able to discard these other two lands. Whew. I like how the shield that it had was green. In honor of that, we will make our cat green. Oh my gosh, I wish that it gave me more opportunities to use this ability. Nice, so. Full control. Unblockable. Oh. That was a nice draw. play the land. Now if we draw another land, we can get the Chandra and the Moorland Inquisitor down. Okay, Chandra's actually really good for us here.
Hi, I'm ready to fight. Toasted!
We'll just hope there's no shock in our future.
You ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try something new.
And hopefully he doesn't have the 3/1/1 guy. And now we can just get rid of all our extra lands, and we are in good shape. Oh my gosh, you're scampering Scorcher. So lame, opponent. So lame.
Oh, I just wanna hug all those fire critters.
I think it's worth it to keep our Chandra around. Kill the Elemental.
Toasted!
Attack his Chandra. Play the Moorland Inquisitor.
Hey, that hurt!
End turn. So you can kill my Moorland Inquisitor, but then I keep my Chandra around for at least a little longer. So I have a slight board advantage. He has a slight Chandra advantage. And I have this Glinthorn Buccaneer, which is going to be good. Oh, that is really good for me. So now he does not have the Chandra advantage any longer. Heck yes. I'm not going to risk this dying to a shock. I'd rather at least get rid of a dead card first. Funnily enough, actually, Inspiring Charge would not have been better. This card's going to be a 4-turn clock, which is quite nice. I think I'm favored right now. I think we've played this game pretty well. It's been an interesting one. No block. Sure. Oh, that's brutal. Next time I'll block here, I think. He's one mana, one forest short of making a massive land. Sure. Kill that at least. Sure. I need a big draw here. That might have been bad. Oh no. Is that even good enough? I hit for 3. It is not good enough. Yeah, that was a really bad block, I guess. I didn't play around Feral Invocation at all when I really should have. Shoot. Could have just taken it, gone to 7. Then chumped. So I'm 1 point of damage short. Let's see if we have it in us to draw. Not that. Well, that's game. Opponent just has to attack with everything and we're dead. What a crazy match. Even that would have been good enough without the 3/1/1s. Good game, opponent. Oh, man, if I hadn't blocked into that Feral Invocation. If I hadn't blocked, I would have had that extra point of damage. Just gotta think for a second. If I hadn't blocked, I would have gone to 7. And then I would have had my glint guy still. But I was still, I think, a turn short. Even if I ping him with the... Maybe I was supposed to discard the Moorland Inquisitor with this guy's ability. It was just a real shame that the Devout Decree didn't kill one of my opponent's creatures there. If it had been able to kill a 5/5, I would have won. It was just the wrong colors. Real close game, though. Real close game. I've been liking the way this main deck is set up, though. Let's keep going, see how it goes. Interesting to hear your thoughts on that last game. I think I might have been able to win if I'd played it perfectly. But perfectly being, of course, playing around literally everything my opponent could have had at all times. And I'm not even sure if my opponent... I don't know. Yeah, Feral Invocation was something I should have thought about. I just, yeah. Really kind of a mess up there. We're going to mulligan that one. And game 2 was a complete sham, of course, because I didn't hit a land. So, really only got to play... I mean, yeah. We'll keep this one, and we'll get rid of a... Get rid of the Digger. But yeah, that was kind of a frustrating series of events because, yeah, just mulliganing... Not mulliganing the second game I think is defensible because we just have a lot of things to do if we draw a single land. But it just really did not work out even remotely. Oh, that's a nightmare. Oh, dear. Let's give him unblockable. Oh, man. This is the matchup for Unchained Berserker. I'll tell you that much. We're going to start taking a beating. Oh, no. We're taking 7 next turn. Let's just not attack. Because if we attack with this, I guess we could have attacked with Moorland Inquisitor maybe. We want to be able to block there, block there. Can't really block that one. Yeah, I'm playing a bit too quickly. It's been really rough recently because, I mean, this is a first world problem to the highest degree, but we have a house guest over, so I can't play during the day, really, because it's just too disruptive to record. Like, there's just too much stuff going on. So, late at night, I don't play as well. Which is frustrating, but it happens. That was an easy block. Sure, how many is he going to get? I already played against the 5 Fairy Miscreant deck, or seemed like it. So let's just see how many of these battalion foot soldiers he's got. One, okay. Oh, the Scorch Spitter. Let us attack for 3. I'm really not liking my chances here. This battalion foot soldier is actually incredibly annoying. Oh no. That's just a 4-mana 2/2 haste is really good against me right now. Okay, so you revealed pacifism. Okay. Well, we lost this game, I believe. I like these blocks. We go to 4. Nice rip off the top, I must say. Oh, that was really bad attack. That puts me dead on board because of this stupid goblin I forgot about. Yeah. Oopsie daisies. Sorry about that. All he has to do is play it. My opponent had a pretty good draw, though, to be fair. I think they used all their mana every turn. Don't know why you'd play that when it doesn't win you the game on the spot. Now I can win. Like, now I actually have outs to win. When if you play this, I don't. Like, I just have to draw Chandra or my... Or my Infuriate, or my... I think I have... To win that game, I have Chandra, Infuriate, the Reckless card. So I have Reckless Rage. So I have 3 outs there. Let's see if I had any other outs. No, Uncaged Fury is one I was thinking about. No, but 3 outs is more than my opponent should have given me. So against a red deck, we're going to bring in the Devout Decree. We're going to cut the Apostle. We're going to bring in the Moorland. Actually, we're not going to bring in the Moorland. We're just going to keep the 2 drops as it is. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 2 drops. It should be enough. Going to probably cut the Destructive Digger because it's just too slow. For God's Willing. We kind of want all the God's Willings we can get, I think. Bring in another God's Willing. Cut a Dagger Sailor or not. Okay. Let's get this done. You kind of want all the cheap interactive spells you can against these decks. So... having a lot of God's Willings is really good. Jesus, what a catastrophic hand. Sorry for all the... yeah, any, if that was, should not be saying those things, but we're going to mulligan this. And then we'll keep this. Man. Farewell, mountain. We hardly knew ye. Oh, goblin bird grabber, how cute. I am the beatdown. Oh my gosh. Let's just wait and not attack, because by not attacking with this, we save at least 2 damage. And Raise the Alarm matches up really well against the bird grabber. I just want to start attacking with this aeronaut while my other men hold the ground. And by men, I mean Minotaur pirates and goblins with flying contraptions. Zoltan Boros. Let's get in for 3. Maybe even attack with everyone. Let me get hit back for 6. Seems like a solid enough attack. With this God's Willing. We're fine with that trade. And then we'll try to get this bird grabber with our Raise the Alarm. Opponent might play around it. They seem like they're pretty clever. Yeah, we don't like the Chandra's Outrage there. Protection from red, please. Oh, we'll put that on top. That's actually a great draw. Use all our mana very efficiently. Puts my opponent on 2-turn clock. I'm going to cut some aeronauts on the draw because I'm going to be more defensive. Their deck seems very, very powerful. They have a great deck. Long bat. I wonder why they played that main phase. Full art soldier token art. Yep, I got this game. This guy gets unblockable, pings him once. have the raise the alarm. Got him. Boom. Okay, Longbat. Joke's on you. I've got this game. Got you right where I want you. We're going to cut down 2 of those for a Moorland Inquisitor. And maybe even just this Uncaged Fury. I think I'm like that. Four drops that don't block super well and die to shock are not high on my list. I'm still in full control. Well, this hand is a nightmare. That's what everyone dreams of. Hopefully my opponent mulligans keep it fair. Because we're definitely mulliganing. 2 combat tricks and oh yes, opponent mulligans as well. And now we will keep this hand. We will ditch a plains. I had an upkeep stop on my opponent. That's funny. Oh, please no Pegasus. You gotta give me a break. Loyal Pegasus on turn 1. Oh, I'm having nightmares. Oh my gosh, really? This bird grabber is just gonna own me. I do have this combo for 4 mana, so this is 3, 4. Oh man, I just need, and oh, I even have this. Oh man. So I can give it pro white, then make it 5, 6 power, so hit him for 12. We're just gonna hold back, make him not attack me for as much while I look for lands, etc., etc. Okay, so my opponent clearly thinks they can beat First Strike. What beats First Strike? Shock. Let's just go for First Strike. Dang it. Oh. Completely dominated. Oh my gosh, I just can't catch a break. I mean, I figured they had something. That wouldn't have made the attack if they didn't. Like, I don't think I'm going to beat that card anyway. This is such a bad draw. Like, oh my goodness, this is a bad draw. Because the problem is, most of the time, they're just going to be doing that with like a shock back. Yeah, we lose. This has just been a nightmare. We drew 5 I guess we drew this creature, but maybe should have cut the Rapacious Strike. I don't even know. Oh man, this has been a terrible draw. He had 1 drop into 2 drop into 3 drop into 3 drop into 3 drop. And we had a 2 drop. Our mulligan was much worse than his, I must say. We drew our, like, all of our bad cards. It's my turn. Yay. Hoarding Dragon. Unfortunately, we shall have to concede. Well, we may have been defeated, but we did not lose our fighting spirit. And I guess we did misplay one of those games. Ooh, Mu Yangling.
I assist those
Nice.
by the pursuit of
Well, that is going to do it for this draft video. I think our deck was pretty solid. We just kind of came up against some poor matchups, some poor draws. It happens for sure. And we definitely could have won that one match if we had played slightly better, I think, in the final game. Though it's close and hard to say for sure. Retrospect is 50-50. Actually, the hindsight is 50-50. It's late here, and I'm going to be able to record in a much nicer location tomorrow, I think. So, not location, time period. So, hopefully that does help. If you did make it all the way to the end of the video, type hashtag #RedWhiteDefeated in the comment section down below to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel to get updates whenever I post new content, and shoot, I forgot to set up my Patreon thank you credits scene. Okay, but I will set that up soon for my next video. I will. But yeah, thank you so much to all of my patrons who support me over on patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. If you would like to get access to exclusive rewards and get that warm, fuzzy feeling of supporting the content that I make on a daily basis, be sure to check out the patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. That is going to do it for this video. We didn't manage to get too many wins, but I think our deck was pretty strong, and we could have totally gotten there. I don't think it was a problem with the strategy being bad. I think it was just draws being bad and our opponents having good draws and things like that. So that is going to do it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys next time.